The Indie Council is in session. Welcome, everyone. This is a place for the leading voices from across the industry to gather to talk news, titles, and everything indie. I'm your master of ceremonies, Jill Grote, the Indie Informer. And we have a full house today. Yay! We're all together again.
Yay.
2 times in a row.
Wow.
This is amazing.
Break the streak next week.
Maybe we'll all be together. Like, a lot of us will be together. There's one of
Half
us,
of us.
perhaps, that won't be joining the cool group, but
I don't have a response.
joining the council today, 1 week away from starring in the 6-1 Indie Showcase, Mike Towndrow. How you feeling, Mike?
I have a question for the council.
Okay, we're ready to adjudicate.
Busy time of the year, GDC, PAX. I'm sure we're all thinking about like the fits, how we're going to be presenting ourselves to the masses.
Yep.
Should I get a nose ring?
I'm always down for a nose ring, honestly.
I mean, why not? Except for the maybe the healing process is my only light hesitation, if you're worried about that. But
I also want it to be like bejeweled, if you can manage.
Sure.
you should get it done at the event. Like, be like, hey, I'm gonna get my nose pierced. Who wants to come with? Like, I would.
Oh, I
say
thought you meant
that.
like on the PAX floor.
On the
No,
floor.
100% on the
Indie
PAX
games.
floor. Like, make it a part of your. This is how much I love indies.
Yeah, Kelsey has been pushing this for a while, and it's been festering in my brain.
Yeah.
Thinking about it.
You can always take it out.
Sure, I can always
the
take it
thing
out.
is, you can always take it out, yeah.
It's either gonna be septum or the little nostril ring. We'll see.
Why not
That's
both?
tough. Yeah, I was going to say.
One at a
both
time.
would be good.
Just
One at
one
a
quick
time.
heal, double the things to heal, but half the time somehow. I don't know. That's how
That
it works.
math checks out.
Continue, Jill.
Also joining the council is Cozy Game Quality Assurance, Janet Garcia. How you doing, Janet?
Oh, hi, hello. I'm good.
You're like, wait, that was me, but I did
Yeah,
catch.
I wasn't expecting it to be me for some reason.
I caught your stream in which there were 3 games were played, and only
Yeah.
one of which was found acceptable. One was perhaps acceptable, but not your thing. And the other one was just trash.
That is a dramatization of what I wrote. That's not what I put on the thumbnail, Jill. You're clickbaiting the content, but yeah, I'll talk about them for what we've been
You know.
playing.
It's good content. Everyone should go check it out.
I
And
always
I
feel
think you
so
chose-
like seen when you like come into the stream. Like it's almost like what I feel like when a developer comes into the stream. I don't know why, because like I see you all the time, but it's like, oh,
Okay.
the indie informer's here. I'm like, guys, be on your P's and Q's.
I do sometimes slip in, like I forget that I'm on the official channel when I slip into people, and I'm like, I don't feel like going through the effort of logging out, so this is where I am. But sometimes I do slip in under my own personal, like, secret identity, and some people know it. But then, like for the most part, it's fun to just kind of be normal.
Just your burner.
Ooh.
All right, I'll keep an eye out.
Just go in and troll everyone.
Yeah. Indies
Jill's just-
suck. And keeping secrets about June's wholesome direct. It's Jenny Wyndham. Hi, Jenny.
Hello. So many secrets.
Yeah, secrets.
We're trying to wheedle them out of you. Like,
Wow.
we'll go on to our next silly topic, and we'll be like, Jenny, quick, what is this game?
Just take me off guard.
Yeah, 100%. That was a really exciting announcement. Things are starting to get announced for like summer, and I'm still in like pre-spring, like we talked about GDC and PAX
Like-
and everything. I'm like, I'm not ready for anyone to talk about anything else right now.
The only person allowed to share summer stuff is Wholesome and Jenny.
Yeah.
Everyone else, let's chill the hell out, all right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Calm
everyone.
down for
Settle
at least
down.
2 weeks. Okay.
Honestly,
Let's get to April.
I keep forgetting that we're in March. I keep putting down February for all of like work stuff.
Same.
It's like this is getting ridiculous. Time has to stop for just a little bit. Let me rest.
Let the council sleep.
Yeah, let the council sleep.
That would be an interesting topic of the show. Like, we're here, everyone, and today's council is napping. Enjoy. But
God,
I
remember nap
mean-
time back in the day?
nap time, and we would like.
What do you mean
didn't
back in the
wanna
day?
do it.
Like
I
when
know,
it's scheduled,
I
like when's mandated.
regularly- I mandate naps for myself.
Yeah. Something like
Have
putting
a-
yourself to sleep. Like, I'm fussy. It's time to lay down.
Yes.
Jumping into an extremely important topic for the indie community. We touched on this with our boots on the ground expert opinion, Xavier Nelson Jr. last episode. If you did not see it, it was an excellent one. Please go back. But we took it to the people. The question was, is Denny's or IHOP the better choice? We got like the process was a roller coaster. We have been chatting between us back and forth about what has been happening in this poll. Some of us are very much on one side versus the other side. Some of us might be wrong. But what ended up happening, my cat is literally in the process of breaking my keyboard.
The cat's trying to vote.
And
She's
hiding-
literally
and putting it
trying
in the
to
show
like
notes.
take over the vote. There's my control key is now off of my keyboard. So thanks, Noodles.
Wow,
for-
cat literally stepping up to take control. That's
Oh,
wild.
yeah.
Inspirational.
So where we ended up landing, from what I can tell, if I'm reading this poll correctly, which I think I am, Denny's has won correctly, but by the slimmest of margins. It's like a percent. I
1.1.
see you, Mike. I'm going to choose whether or not you get to speak. But there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of surprise. This is one of those things where I feel like people had never like really looked into their souls as to which of the two they would pick if they had to. I don't know if we started a war, but we might have. Like, this might be the ripple that causes everything else to happen. And in the spirit of war, I'm gonna let Mike speak. Go ahead, Mike.
Spirit of war.
I love everybody listening. I love the Indie Informer community. I love the 6-Foot Indie community. I love the Indie Council jury. I don't know. We got to come up with the people's name. 45.1% of you are wrong and 10.9% of you are fucking cowards.
That was the C results. I always toss the C results in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The C results, if you did not vote, you probably should have, because
Well, maybe they haven't been to either or have only been to one. Like, I respect that. Like, don't just throw your vote into something, you know? This is just Twitter. This isn't like the political system. You don't just have to just be like, I guess I'll pick this because I have to.
No, I 100% expect people to see the poll, run out, whatever they're doing, drop it. It's not.
Oh, I see what you
important
mean.
anymore.
Like, step
Go
up in your
out,
community to do your
and-
research.
yeah,
I understand.
right.
Yeah, and inform
Denny's
inform
is
yourself.
open forever. Like, it will
Another
have
point for
been open
Denny's.
whenever you saw that. So you can go and check it out and vote for it according.
Listen, I get it. Both nominees are old. You know, maybe they're against TikTok. Who knows, man?
Man. Anyway, but this was an enlightening moment.
Yes.
An
For the
unfortunate
longest time while the voting was going on, both were like neck and neck, 100%. Even by, I think, midnight of last night, when I looked in on it, it was still like a 50-50 split. So I'm glad that we came to the right conclusion. I'm glad that we all are settled in the fact that Denny's is better than IHOP. We have also another poll that came out of last week's debate, which was sort of like a larger topic in the show, but I'm glad this got more kind of bigger, is whether or not GDC versus PAX East, and I believe that one was a 50-50 split. So there is no decision on whether or not GDC or PAX is better. Just go
Kind of a
and
fun to
enjoy
fun.
whatever you like.
I got distracted. I Miss My Wife is trending on Twitter, and it's a video of Dr. Robotnik saying, I miss my wife, Tails. Anyways, indie news.
Yeah, I was literally just
Very important. Let's go ahead and give Mike something that we know is going to keep his attention.
Oh, God.
6-1 Indie Showcase is happening next week. What do you want to tell us about it?
Man, the 6-Foot Indie Showcase premieres with a special pre-show kickoff, our first ever pre-show at 8:50 a.m. Pacific, 11:50 a.m. Eastern on Wednesday, March 20th. We got 39 games within the span of a 60-minute show. 6 of those games are part of the pre-show, something we're dubbing PD's Play Now pre-show, a pre-show highlighting games that have recently released in Q1 2024, but maybe have
Okay.
been overlooked. And then, main show,
Love
33 upcoming indies, world premieres, exclusive looks, showcase debuts, surprises. And then after the show, we have 19 developer interviews, a handful of written previews and reviews from my editorial team, and then I think like a 3+ hour post show where part one it's me and Kyle talking about behind the scenes stuff, and the second half talking about each individual game in greater detail. Big old day, big old event. It's been a rough first quarter of the year for you, boy. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into this thing, literally. So yeah, I'm excited to finally share it with everyone. Shout out to Jeff Keighley for hitting the button at the same time as me today and totally burying the re-announcement.
He 100% was waiting for that announcement.
100%.
He was
Maybe y'all were like
knows.
tethered together, in a way that you couldn't really perceive.
Yeah, me and Jeff
Like
are a strand
fate.
game.
Yeah.
Whoa. That's the sequel, is you and Jeff. Like, we already knew he was in that game, and now it's like, you're really the protagonist. Like, Norman Reedus dies in the first 30 seconds, and you step forward to take his place.
As I should. But yeah, 61indie.com/showcase, youtube.com/61indie. Yeah, come hang out in the chat. I will be watching from Boston, hang out in the chat. I'm excited to see reactions from. There's like a couple particular games I'm excited to see reactions for because I feel like they're going to catch a lot of people off guard. Yeah, should be a fun time.
I'm going to be, as tradition, on BART. Zooming into San Francisco.
Spoilers, Jill, you have access to the show.
No one needs to know that, Mike. I was going to be excited. No, actually, maybe I won't watch because I'm not the news editor on the site. That's the lovely
Fine,
John
I'll
Carson.
email John.
So maybe, well, he has it. Don't worry about it. So maybe I'll just let him watch it and then be surprised because that's fun.
Great. Super fun. Indies are fun.
Speaking of indies are fun, let's go over release dates very quickly. I'm going, for people who can't see the doc, obviously, I'm going out of order. So, just to mess with everybody. We have a lot of release dates that recently just popped up. So I wanted to shout them out so that people can get excited. Maybe if you missed some of them, maybe you're looking forward to things. Because I mean, like, we were talking, I think, about how, I think this was on just now, like, it doesn't feel like March right now. It does not feel like the date that it is. So the fact that we have April and May and June starting to fill out for things is really messing with my brain. So keep these in mind. We have Yellow Taxi Goes Vroom, very fun N64 inspired game, is coming out April 9th. Children of the Sun, which I'm surprised is coming out so soon because we just got a preview for it on Steam Next Fest. But that is coming out April 9th. So they're going to fight each other. That would be fun. What if we did an Oppenheimer Barbie situation on this? Like, how would we combine those two things?
Children of the Room.
Children of the Room. I love it. Moving into May, Venture to the Vile is coming out May 7th. And Paper Trail, which I've been keeping track of for a very long time, is coming out May 21st. So everybody keep those in mind. Those are all going to be really fun, really cool games. And I still can't believe it's going to be spring, but the weather is lovely, so I love it. Everybody, what are you excited about? Is everybody excited about basically everything on here? Do you have one that hits you personally?
For me, it's the Yellow Taxi Goes Room. I think we were around each other, Jill, when we played that at the mix from PAX
something
West? East? I don't know. It was one of the PAXs.
West. I've never been to East, so it must be West.
Yeah, so it has to be West. Yeah, as you mentioned, N64 sort of era expires, particularly in the art. But this is this also has the energy of almost like the chaos of the What the franchise, like What the Golf, What the Bat, that kind of thing. It's like Crazy Taxi if it was Mario 64. That's what this game is. And it's really cool. It has a lot of nods to games like Mario 64 with these kind of fake bombs. Also invokes a bit of WarioWare humor almost, and just its absurdity. Definitely, I think if you glance at almost any screenshot of this, it feels almost like if you're zoomed down into a childhood play area, almost like the diorama-esque, crowded 90s bedroom-esque. It has. I'm looking at the screenshots now. There's like a Pizza King with a pizza cutter in his hand that's covered in blood. Like I don't know what's going on here, but genuinely, like having just played the demo of it, I thought it was really fun. Really like natural, easy to pick up. I had a good time with it, and I'm looking forward to what that full build is like and what kind of chaos will ensue. So that's probably my highest on my list from this release date update that you have.
Yeah, I think
All
I'm
of
like
them.
you with
Yeah.
I was
Jenny,
going to
you
say,
go.
I think like Jill, I think Paper Trail is the one I've been following most closely out of all of them. I loved the demo. Like basically you're solving puzzles by bending a sort of like origami paper like environment to create paths. And some of the puzzles were so truly brain bending for me. And I love when a game makes me feel first really, really dumb and then really, really smart. Like that's one of my favorite feelings. And so it just captured that. And it has this like, I don't know, kind of children's story, folklore-y feel to it. I can't remember what the exact story was, but just a really gentle puzzle game, and I'm very excited. And Venture to the Vile, I was really intrigued by. I played the demo. They had some sort of demo out for it, and it was great atmosphere, but the demo didn't show off some of what they had like talked about in terms of like dynamic day night cycle or like acquiring powers, and they have some of that in their Steam page that they didn't show. And so I'm very intrigued, like tentatively intrigued for Venture to the Vile.
Yeah. I remember watching, I think Mike was on the sticks for Venture to the Vile for one of the demo. Maybe it was a Steam Next Fest.
Yeah, it was the Next Fest thing.
So watching him go up against the boss of the demo was absolutely a highlight. But yeah, I'm kind of with Jenny on this one. I am interested to see how that comes out. I think Children of the Sun might be a real Mike game. I don't know if you've actually jumped into it though.
I did. I played it. I guess it was during Next Fest during that first public demo. Yeah, it's a Mike ass game. It reminds me of this is gonna be a hard pull, but was it Counter Spy? It was like a PlayStation Plus indie that came out like early PS4 days. It reminds me of like a turn-based strategy sort of FPS. Yeah, I love just the vibe of it. I love the art. I love the aesthetic. I love just the gameplay. The gameplay is super engaging. But all four of these games are generally like four of my most anticipated games of the year, and it stresses me out that they're all coming out within like a few weeks of each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, Yellow Tuxedo's Room is an utter blast. Yeah, Janet nailed the description. Venture to the Vile, Jill made it clear that I had a blast playing that demo, and boss fight is really chaotic. Again, like it's just all in the vibe and whatnot. And Paper Trail, I utterly adore the dev's first game. It's under a different developer name, but Hue, that came out back in 2016. It's the same creator, but it's a different studio name.
That was like the first. So I don't know if y'all remember, they had like an indie box subscription thing a long time ago. That was the first indie box, and I still have it like somewhere in my other room. And Hugh, I love Hugh. So
yeah,
that's really
so
cool.
this is his follow up. Yeah, if you haven't played Hue, this is Hue. Also, Hue is currently $3 on Steam, so like please play it. It's really damn good.
But the offer ends in like 17 hours, so I don't know if y'all
too
are
bad.
Let's do it.
Add it to your time travel to-do list. We all have one. What you would do if you had the power.
If Hugh had the power.
If Hugh had the power.
Oh yeah, this is dangerous. So let's move on. The Steam Spring Sale is happening, and the glorious team, which is the Indie Council, helped to make sure all of the information was correct because I did not have it correct at first. But it is happening March 14th, which should be the day that you are seeing this. At the very least,
tomorrow.
Yeah, right?
Jesus.
And it goes through the 21st, which is next Thursday, which is like so mean, right? Because like I want to go through and check everything out, but I'm gonna be so busy running through all the things at GDC, so I had better get on that this weekend. But everybody else has until next Thursday to check everything out. It is the sort of idea of it being this is not the first year of it. Last year was the first year that they did this. It is a seasonal sale, sort of like the winter sale that is very prevalent and everybody kind of knows about. This one's getting off the ground, and I guess it did very well in its first year because it is back. Lots of things to get on your backlog. Like if you are, it's a really good thing for like indie people in general, because if you're listening to a show like this, or indeed on a show like this, the hazard is you hear about all these amazing games that you just want to pick up, and then you add everything up and it's like, I can't possibly make this happen in my wallet. So this is the time to make it happen. If you've heard something from the show that you want to pick up, go back and check that out, and we'll probably maybe see some really good sales and shout them out. But again, like, the spring events season is about to take place, so we'll see how that goes. Speaking of seeing how things go, a very mysterious thing popped up just the other day on socials, and it's really not telling us a lot about anything. It's called the Triple I Initiative. So it could be about to murder us. We really don't know. If you go to the website, which I will link in whatever doobly doo down below, it is counting down. There's a countdown. It says Triple I Initiative, a mysterious teasing page by the studios behind Darkest Dungeon, Risk of Rain, Slay the Spire, Vampire Survivors, V Rising, and many others. And it says next announcement, and it's counting down. It's currently at 14 days, 18 odd hours. So if I've done my math correctly, which I cannot guarantee I have, I think that's March 28th. We should be looking for some sort of announcement. And then the Twitter page for Triple I Initiative just says, in the works for months, coming to you in days, hold on to your butts. And that's it. That's all the information out there in the public. What are you all thinking? That's a lot of good names just right there in the intro.
They're combining to make one game. No, that's probably not the case. A dungeon crawler meets a procedurally generated card.
All of the titles.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it obviously could just be like a number of things, but I think the idea of, we often talk about what indie initiatives look like, and I think what's most exciting about this is the idea of studios that are, really well respected in the indie space, that have produced really incredible titles. I think the idea of them collaborating on anything is exciting in the sense that they have the knowledge, they have the skill, and I think that's a powerful combination for taking on any project.
Yeah. These are not like new studios. These are all studios that have a lot of clout, a lot of experience behind them. For them to be coming together to do something, it should make you, stand up and take notice. I sort of love this rollout, the way that they're doing it, because a lot of the times with indie games, for me as a journalist, like, if you are sort of an unknown entity and you try to do this, it usually falls flat. It's like, you need a little bit more information. But when you get these sorts of levels of games, like, people are all you have to say is like, a thing is coming, here's a countdown, and it 100% works. So I love it. I don't love that, like, again, we're in the middle of the spring season, so my brain isn't able to like nail down exactly what we should be looking forward to. But if it's like, I guess we'll figure that out in a couple weeks, right? Did you guys have a reaction to this, Mike, or you're just like soulless dead eyes?
Cool people doing cool things. I'm excited.
What a lead up.
I love it.
Did you have a reaction, or are you just dead inside when you look within? Do you see anything at all?
It's
related to this?
Related to this? Yeah.
Everyone knows the answer to that. No, I'm excited to see what this is. Like everyone was saying, big studios, not big studios, indie studios with a lot of clout clearly care about the indie space and see a lot of the issues when it comes to discoverability and whatnot. Like, hopefully this is some sort of initiative to help, get more eyes on the scene, and whatever it is, I'm excited to see what's out. So
Did you light
what
the
it's
bang
about.
candle?
Of course, I
Okay,
did.
cool. I'm just making sure.
Daylight savings is messing up the bang candle for our recording
Oh
time.
no.
It's too bright for the bang candle to glow
Actually
into my
show
face.
up.
Yeah,
To do
Yeah.
its thing, yeah.
to do
Something
its
to look
thing
forward to later.
soon.
But yeah, we'll have to check that out, and hopefully we will be revitalized with all the indie things we see at GDC and or PAX, and we'll be excited to see whatever this is. I see that one thing has been snuck onto my dock, and I was very excited about this, so we'll shout this out. Vampire Survivors vinyl has been announced. Mom. I imagine that was Mike who did that. So go
I'm gonna
ahead,
spend
Mike.
a lot of money tomorrow on this pre-order.
Oh my gosh. This week has been really bad for my wallet between like vinyl releases but especially like plushie releases or like last chance to get plushies. And then the Cult of the Lamb book thing is also up there, so I'm like I can't be spending this kind of money, y'all. We need to spread this out. What are you doing?
If it scares me that it's Vampire Survivors Volume 1, how many volumes are there?
So many.
How many times
volumes.
am I going to give I am 8-bit $44.99 in the span of
8-bit
2024?
has a really good / horrific shop usually at GDC,
Yeah, I know.
and I always walk in and it's like I always tell myself I'm not going to get anything. I'm just going to see what's cool and what's around, and then I walk out with like $500 worth of things.
I mean, their shops, I mean, they're not at PAX anymore, but their shop at PAX back in the day, pre-lockdown, like that's where you get all the sold out stuff that's out of print. Like my copy of Grizz, after it sold out online, like just randomly found one copy near the indie mega booth. So yeah, you gotta look for those gems.
Yeah.
Those things go for a lot of money.
For real. So yeah, but protect your wallets because there's a lot of good stuff out there.
Spend it all.
It's like, can you imagine Mike is like the little devil and I'm the little angel? But like we're both sort of saying go out and buy stuff, so it's not really that
One's
helpful.
less cynical than the other.
I don't know how to transfer onto our topic of the show because we've just like kind of gone off the rails 100% of the time.
Speaking of spending money,
indie platforms.
Thank you, Satan.
You're welcome.
With the toss.
So it's kind of the niche within the niche that is indie gaming. Like there is a mainstream indie gaming situation, and then you have like separate platforms in there. So it's things like the Playdate, Apple Arcade, Game Pass. I can't read what this one says underneath everybody's link. Like, thank you for doing that. Was that Mike?
No, that wasn't me.
That one's mine. Utomic is how you pronounce that.
Yeah, and there are a ton of other little things. And this has been a topic we've sort of thrown around a lot. I'd like to do an expanded version of this topic where we all check out different games from it. But let's just talk about what they are to begin with. So a lot of people in my community know that I recently received from Panic, their creators, a Playdate, just like that. That Mike is holding up for people who can't visually see him. And it is such I'm still kind of getting my thoughts together and playing different things. Legitimately, like 5 minutes before we started recording this podcast, I put up my review for Mars After Midnight, and I will talk more about that game as we talk about games we're playing. But the Playdate, for just my thoughts right now, unfinished, is such a hard thing.
I'm so excited
about.
to hear. Like,
I know.
Like I love it. I love the Playdate. It has a playfulness. It has a heart that is the core of all things indie. That it's like it's little things like when you purchase a game, and I say purchase, but like as a journalist, I'm getting things for free. So disclaimer there. your game shows up on the list and you like literally unwrap it with like little robot arms and you're like, this is so unnecessary. It could just show up in a list, but it doesn't. It's just like ta-da, and shiny and happy, and it's like this is the sort of little detail that just makes me so happy with things. It is as far as like the actual product hardware goes, like it is so much more solid than I was expecting. I always like when I saw it for the first time, I expected to be a little plasticky thing, but it's a really like hardy little machine. It is really thoughtful in the way that the crank is used. Like it is limited. Obviously, you don't have a lot of space for huge games and huge graphics and like all kinds of things going on there, but because of the restriction, people get so much more creative and really silly. So that is such a fun combination of things. The other unfortunate downside to that is not only are things limited, but like a lot of the games that I am running into for this are kind of like tech demos and not actually games. So they're like little experiences of try pushing as much buttons as you can, but we're not going to communicate a lot to you. Sometimes that turns into a thing. You're just like, oh, that's really cool. And sometimes it's like, oh, cool. So it is a hard thing to recommend because it is like a $200 piece of equipment. And there aren't games up until perhaps this week. There weren't any games that it was like a system seller. So it really depends on whether or not you as an indie person are interested in this specific experience and the kind of experience that the Playdate allows. Um, the rest of these, a lot of these are sort of, well, I don't know. Maybe Jenny, before I say something that is going to be contradicted, why don't you tell us about your indie platform that you want to champion today?
Sure. Well, I don't necessarily know if I'm championing it, but it's one that I thought of. It's one
She's
that
stepping back real fast, you guys. That backpedaling is real.
yeah, it's well, because it's like it's a platform where indies are located. Full disclaimer, I did work. It was actually my first job in games, like way back in the day. So that's primarily how I know about it. But it actually was a predecessor essentially to Game Pass. And maybe there were others. It's the only one I knew about that happened before Game Pass was a thing, where it was like they wanted to set up some sort of cloud gaming situation for people to play games on like PC, mobile, like across, consoles, whatever. And yeah, they did it. It was basically Game Pass before Game Pass, and their primary focus at the time when I was working there was indie games. But I haven't super paid attention to Atomic since I left, admittedly. But it looks like I just visited the website just after putting it on the show notes, and it looks like they still are pretty indie heavy as well as like retro and sort of older game heavy. But yeah, so kind of like a little adjacent to Game Pass situation that I wanted to highlight just because I remembered it with this topic prompt.
She quickly threw it under the bus. It's like, no one should check it out.
No, I mean, you can play it for
really
free.
starting stuff this episode.
I know.
Like Jan said this game was
energy.
trash. Jenny
That's
was like,
the
this
energy.
platform's garbage.
Mike's dead inside.
Yeah.
It's definitely
The
the week
cat
before
can't eat the
GP
eyes.
games.
keyboard. Like, what's going on? The type
Dull and black like a doll's eyes. Janet, let's see if I can
No,
play
I'm
nice.
yeah, I'm getting on blast too. No, what's up?
You seem to be a real advocate for Apple Arcade.
Yeah, I think I'll take that and run with it. Why not? You know what? I'm just gonna embrace what I've been labeled.
Jana Garcia is Apple Arcade's #1 gamer.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely did hit Apple Arcade a lot harder when it first came out. I think part of that is the being there on the ground floor, kind of seeing what it has to offer, and also when the offerings are a little smaller, it's easier to play everything because the list is not as big. But Apple Arcade remains to be a pretty fun platform to me. If you're not familiar, Apple Arcade is a subscription service. I think it's about $5 a month. You get access to 200 plus games. There's no ads. There's no in-app purchases. That is part of their policy. online and offline play supported across Apple devices. That means your, iPhone, iPad, Apple TV. I assume maybe your Mac, I guess, as well. Sure. Even though
Yes.
I technically haven't played it on the Mac, so that's why I was like, oh, I guess. Correction, it's $6.99 a month. You can get like a 1 month free trial depending on whatever. I'm not sure if you can do an annual and if the annual would be cheaper, but that's the situation. Much like other Apple subscription services, like through I don't know if you'd call it Apple Family or like iCloud or what it is. You can have like up to 5 people on it potentially, like if they're in your sort of general Apple ecosystem, is what I'll say. So that's what Apple Arcade is in a nutshell. And yeah, it has a lot of really cool indie titles. I do think part pro, part con. I think as it's continued, I'm not sure how many years this has been running. I think for quite some time. I think it launched around either 2018, 2019 sort of time.
Something like that.
It has gone a little bit more the way of, hey, this is a game that everyone agrees is really good. Now an Apple Arcade version that has, it's ad free and you kind of get that perk. I guess just to get the other cons out of the way. Another kind of complaint that I've heard from people with Apple Arcade is sometimes that desire to break free up subscription models. I think a lot of users wish there was a way to pay any amount of money to just kind of have them aside from the subscription. So that is kind of the con. If your game is an Apple Arcade game, or if it's an Apple Arcade exclusive, people can really only engage with it then through that subscription, which is in contrast to something like Game Pass, where sure, you can play games via Game Pass, but those games aren't limited to Game Pass. They are just available on Game Pass. So those are kind of the cons in a nutshell. The pros, I think these games are really high quality. Obviously, we all have different tastes, different things we look for. I think they have a really wide range of style of games. Again, sometimes you get some new stuff. Sometimes you get old things revamped. I think a lot of them too feel very like well made with mobile in mind. I think one of the gripes a lot of gamers, especially hardcore gamers who come from the console space, have with mobile games is that feeling of, I feel like it's not really like as fleshed out of an experience, or it feels maybe too, it's trying to be a console game, but on a handheld. So you have the controls that are, those are sort of the complaints that I think people often have. And I think Apple Arcade avoids a lot of that. Part of that is its option for like Bluetooth controller support with the devices. Part of that is just, I think this kind of came out in a great time with like the popularity of the Backbone, which is a third-party product you can buy that is meant to give you that handheld console feeling on your phone. So like these kind of all worked in harmony together. And then of course there's plenty of touchscreen controls. Fantastic games have came through here, such as Grindstone. Like one of the best games of that year was an Apple Arcade game, and it was like sort of one of the subscription seller games of that time, of like, oh my god, this is so incredible. And since then it's become available on other things. But yeah, that's Apple Arcade in a nutshell. I think what's great about it is it has variety and quality. So like a lot of the things we're going to talk about here, it's one of those things where you're going to get out of it what you put into it. So like obviously different things have different appeal levels, but at the end of the day, if you have Apple Arcade and you're not playing the games, maybe not the subscription for you, or maybe not the time. But if you're interested in venturing in, I think you'll find that there's a lot of offerings. I honestly would be shocked if anyone, like any gamer, got Apple Arcade and didn't find at least 5, if not 10 games that they really genuinely enjoyed. So that's sort of my elevator pitch for Apple Arcade. I think too, again, they since it's mobile games, I think a lot of the titles, like one compliment I want to give mobile gaming in general, because I think there is a lot of shade thrown to it, is mobile gaming has some of the greatest, quickest, simplest tutorials you will ever encounter. And I know haters might say, oh, it's because the game's more simplistic, but I've played a lot of simple games in a lot of places, and the speed at which they're like, here's the game, boom, now you're playing it, you're in it, is so lovely and fun and refreshing. So if you're open to mobile gaming, I think Apple Arcade is a great spot to hit up. And of course, plenty of indies there if you're interested in, having that, which I'm guessing if you're listening to the show, that's a big passion for you. So yeah, Apple Arcade's a great place to go.
Yeah. And speaking of sort of more mobile gaming, I think this was Mike typing this as Janet was talking over there. Netflix?
Yeah. Netflix. If you didn't know, they do the video game thing.
The Game Pass of shows.
The Game Pass of shows, the OG. Yeah, Netflix is very similar to Apple Arcade, and I forgot if Janet mentioned this, but Apple Arcade also, if you have an Apple TV, you can just hook up a Xbox controller and play Apple Arcade stuff on Apple TV as well. Super cool. But yeah, Netflix very similar to Apple Arcade. You just get a slate of games included in your Netflix subscription. I think everybody has a Netflix nowadays, so you just have games available to you. And they're nothing, as I turn translucent, getting this giant white page in my face. The games lineup is pretty killer. Like, just doing a quick scroll, like Death's Door is on there, and I'm just shouting out the indies. Death's Door is on there. Of course, Point B is on here.
Hell yeah.
Before Your Eyes, Dead Cells, High Water, Kentucky Route Zero, Oxenfree 2, like Raji and Ancient Epic. There is a lot of really quality stuff on here. The biggest downside with Netflix is they barely promote it, and a lot of the games and their entire games section is just buried. The way you have to access the games is going through the Netflix app on your phone. And then there's like, you just scroll down and like eventually you'll come through like a swipe of like, hey, play some games. There is a little cheat code to get around that. If you just find, like, let's say Death's Door, for example, go to Death's Door on the App Store and you click Netflix as the developer or whatever, it'll just give you all the Netflix games there. Much easier to sort through and search for all the games that are available. But it's really great. It seems like, aside from like the way they're presenting the storefront, like I really wish they just like would come out with a dedicated app or something to help bring more attention to their initiative. I really appreciate that Netflix is bringing a lot of high profile indies to a wider subscriber base. It's just a matter of making them aware that they're available,
that they exist 100%.
Yeah, but it's super cool, and like clearly they have a good eye. It seems like they do care. Especially now, like with Night Schoolers and a couple other studios, they are starting to become a quote unquote indie publisher. With Oxenfree and a couple other games, or a couple other studios, I should say. So yeah, Netflix, don't sleep on it. And if you're not, if you want something more than indies, arguably it's the best place to play the original GTA trilogy. Runs great. I've been playing Vice City on and off with the Backbone. It's killer.
Will you play non-indie games?
What?
Shocker. Controversy.
Well, exposed. I think too, something I want to see more from Netflix gaming is additional like categorization as well. I think Mikey kind of nailed it with which I'm sure they have the reasons for not making a separate app as well. Obviously they have a team that is thinking about that, but just being able to kind of sort through it would be really nice. But I am continuously, very cautiously optimistic about Netflix's gaming venture, just because for me there is that fear of like, are you gonna like again acquire and then shut down? Like there's definitely that's
the fear is always there.
Yeah, the fear of such a big company that isn't known for gaming stepping into the gaming realm. But I do think things like even just seeing them at an event like SGF, like there with Night School, it's like okay, like, and I think if they could get more stuff under their belt, it could become a little bit more of a ground for new stuff coming out, because I do think they have that, like, remember that game you like, it's here, and it's like okay, I think they struggle, I think, in that sense to forge an identity a little bit, but surely that Night School acquisition can take them a bit further.
It was such a
they
bizarre
also have
thing.
Spy Fox too, right?
I think so.
You're right.
Oh, yeah.
The Cozy Grove developers, they're working on a new title, and it's a Netflix title.
It's
I would love
so
to
weird
see them.
to see that.
They made that bear game, right? Too.
Mm-hmm.
God,
I
what
think
is that
so.
called?
Yeah.
Not
It's
Bear
so
and
good.
Breakfast.
Alpha Bear.
I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, Alpha Bear.
Yeah, I love
Super
that game.
cute.
It's so good. Great word game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for
I
the amount
would-
of great games on this list, like, that it is not a number one sort of thing you think of in the indie sphere as like a place to play indie games, means they're really not doing their job here. Like, I don't know who they're trying to attract if they seem, like Mike said, kind of ashamed of the fact that they've got games. So like, are they trying to attract the people who just have Netflix, or are they trying to attract the gaming audience?
Yeah, I don't think it's like ashamed. I just think they just genuinely don't know how to market a video game. Like, aside from like partnering with Jeff and SGF, and like obviously Night Schoolers being at SGF, but like that's more I equate or credit to Night School having that attachment with the pedigree of that studio. Yeah, I think it's a matter of just like them not knowing how to go about marketing a games platform. Like, I think it is, granted, I'm sure there's a lot of technical reasons behind this as well, but I'm kind of surprised that you're not able to play Netflix games on a TV or an Apple TV or like even if it is just Apple TV, like make the app for one dedicated device to make it a little easier. I'm surprised it's just not integrated, or it's not integrated in the Netflix app to begin with, even if it is streaming. I hope like Janet says, like I'm cautiously optimistic for this platform and what they could do with it, because everybody has a Netflix subscription, and a lot of eyes could get on these games, or stealing a Netflix subscription. And a lot of eyes, a lot of eyes have access to these games, but they just do not know they exist.
Yeah, I think too, like at the risk of this turning into like one praise, like 8 tracks of like running through these services, but everything has its drawbacks. Even the categorization is a little bit odd. Like they have Immortality labeled as interactive story, which I agree with, but Oxenfree is also labeled as interactive story, and it's like, like that's kind of, you know what I mean? Like you have like something else in your mind. So, but then also again, maybe leaning into a more general audience. But I'd be curious to know like what their idea is with that vertical. But then you're always going to get a PR answer for that, so it's like, well, we really see that. So I don't know. I wish I could get the non-PR answer for
video games are the future of interactive storytelling.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know, but I wish I could get a non-PR answer from
because it's like when you think about like the medias that we spend time on, it's interesting because it's like there's the training element of like when I go to Netflix, it's because I want to turn my brain off. And so it's interesting as a player because, like, if I'm going to Netflix, I have trained myself to think this is a turn the brain off situation versus play a game, turn the brain on situation. So I feel like there's going to be a weird element of, like, training that's happening here.
This is a dumb idea, but, like, here's my dumb idea for Netflix. Go full in like TikTok style on it. Make it you can play a show on the bottom half. Is you playing
honestly
the show,
right?
Yeah, so many people game and watch Netflix.
Picture in picture.
Like, put that in one thing.
Doesn't Xbox do that? Isn't there like an Xbox feature that you could do picture in picture, or like PS5? Gosh. I think one of the consoles do it.
But I'm saying like lean into it like more. Netflix. Like Netflix gaming as Netflix games. Like
I love honestly if they could, because that's how, because right now, like if I'm going in and playing, like actually I'll play on Apple Arcade, but I will have Netflix up like in a window on my phone, like in the corner. So that's a genius idea.
So now if Netflix does that, they owe Janet like $1 million.
Take it too. Let them walk it down. Let them tell me no. Maybe they wouldn't bat an eye at too. I don't know.
Right? Just walk in there and be like, money, please.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Who wrote the old but new but old hardware Mike uses to play his old new games? Excuse me?
That was not me.
I also added legit do not remember the name, Mike. I'm sorry. Like you're like it's like what the Analog Pocket can do. It's like,
are you not talking about the Analog Pocket?
I think I am, right? Is that what it is, or is it? Do you have anything else? Where it's like,
do you have anything else, Mike?
Yeah.
Come on.
No. I think you're talking about the Analog Pocket. Yeah, the Game Boy. The new Game Boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the Analog Pocket is really cool. It's a device primarily to play old school retro handheld games, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance. You get a adapter for like Neo Geo Pocket, stuff like that. But the other functionality is you could put a little SD card in there, and there are a lot of developers, and this kind of like segues into another platform, another obvious niche platform we haven't talked about. A lot of creators on itch create Analog Pocket specific games, so they play wonderfully handheld, and it's like a brand new Game Boy Color experiences for the modern day. Something I always have like in hands. Folks like Limited Run will even like print out physical copies and physical carts of certain games. I'm holding up Phobos Deer, which is like a really sick survival horror game that came out last year. Towards the end of the year, I started Good Boy Galaxy as well. It's a Game Boy Advance inspired platformer where he plays a little space dog, and it's like a puzzle platformer. It's super cute. So the itch community is thriving when it comes to both the Analog Pocket and the Playdate. Most of my Playdate games come from itch, where you just easily sideload things. So yeah, I do also just want to shout out itch.io. Itch.io is a fascinating platform. A lot of really cool experimental, like usually for the most part, like a lot of like game jam in progress kind of things that you could kind of just jump in and try out and play around with. I recently for whatever reason. And it's just like one of those things, like when you see a game break out of itch and like get like a big win, you feel like that sense of pride. Like Buckshot Roulette just got picked up by Critical Reflex, and that was like a itch.io darling from around the holidays. So like there's some really dang cool stuff on itch, and I feel like a lot of people tend to just like brush it to the side. So big shout out to itch.
I also feel like it took me a while into my indie journey to learn that itch existed in a sense.
Yeah,
like
sure.
it wasn't necessarily like, it's interesting. I'll be curious to know. And if you're listening to this and it's your first time hearing about itch, stand up and be like, hello, this was me. Because I'm curious to know how many people listening might not know about itch. Because like I didn't
Sounds
know
like
about
a new
it.
poll.
Yeah, like did you know itch.io existed? But yeah, genuinely it's like one of the best places. And I also think if you're someone that, we talk about content creation a lot on here, how to get into the industry, things like that comes up in like the, kind of indie homebrew media scene. Itch.io, it's like you can't get game codes. Okay, it's fine. Like it's most of the games are free or pay what you want. Like there's so many ways to participate in gaming, and like itch.io provides like one of the most affordable ways, simply by way of so many of the creators posting up their game and either charging nothing or charging pay what you want. And again, some of my favorite experiences have been on there. Like I talk all the time about Yevoma, the story of the girl walking with her grandmother through the woods. There's also a really sick game I played called, oh man, I'm trying to remember the name of it. Let me know if y'all know it. It is a game where you are sitting at a table and you're trying to like not die. Like you're part of like a potato cult group. Like you've been like taken, and then you have to like try to escape. Like, but you can't eat the potato salad. But you can't let them see that you threw out the potato salad. And genuinely, that game is like rad as hell. I'm scrolling through now to see if I can figure out what the name of that game even is. But yeah, so many cool things. There's like this weirdo horror game called Bon Bon as well. I remember playing on there. Yeah, Halloween Forever's on there. Like super sick Halloween game that's like a sort of old school platformer style. Yeah, there's just so many great titles available through that.
I want to shout out a particular developer, H. Wilson. So if you go to hwilson.itch.io, they developed one of my favorite games of 2022, Bowling Cross. The full title is called Bowling Cross Final Frame, or Bowling Cross Dark Legacy of the Devil Bowler. It's an action RPG framed around bowling. Like it's a turn-based bowling battle system. It's so sick. It's so innovative. And they just... mid last year, they were developing a game called Bumpers and Broadswords. They just launched the, I guess if you want to call it 1.0 version of Bumpers and Broadswords. It's called Bumpers and Broadswords Maximum. Let me pull up the description really quick. Tower scaling, bumper collecting RPG. So it's kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh meets Beyblade. So if that does anything for you, yeah, go to hwilson.itch.io. Legitimately one of my favorite creators active on itch right now.
My weird potato salad game is called Last Meal. Last Meal
sounds like a good game. I also want to shout out Isla, A Frosty Glide, or Skater Witch, depending on what time of the development you jumped into this game, because it started as like a game jam game and is now being fully developed. And I think I think on my site I have an impressions of the early game, and it's just a cool little voxel like witch broom skating deal.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I know what game you're talking about, actually.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to that. So,
also the game I shouted out earlier, Phobos Deer, it's available on itch. The developer name is Appsir Games. Their page is Appsir, appsir.itch.io. They also have a really cool, like this is a series, I guess if you want to call it Deer series, it's like weird glitchy meta horror, if that's kind of your thing. Dear Vengeance is another really good one. I think it's a sequel to Phobos. Anyways, check out the entire library, really good. And also the spring sale currently happening over on itch.
On the note of sales, I forget the name of it, so if y'all remember the name of this day, I think it happens every year. There's a specific day where the sales on itch go more towards the creator than they normally do.
Yeah, all the proceeds go to itch. Like itch doesn't take a cut.
I forget the name that they have for that, but like that drops. There's, like you mentioned the game jams. There's always like some type of jam going on that you can play. So if you're looking for like a themed moment, itch is a great spot for that. I think the last like compliment I want to give to itch, or just like the use case of it, is, which I feel like we haven't maybe fully unpacked this. We kind of talk about it a lot, but the idea of like how do you find more indie games, or how do you find your favorite indie games? Definitely like some of these creators, to like Mike's point of like games blowing up to grow outside of itch, like you may see someone creating, and like years down the line they'll make another game that ends up being like very much your jam if you resonated with that early work. I remember that happened to me. I can't remember the name of the creator offhand, and I want to like misspeak, but I used to do a lot of itch content when I first started out, and I would post it like on YouTube. And it's like, and it's kind of funny when you cover like games like this. We talked about that earlier in a few
Mhm.
episodes as well, about like playing demos and like being perceived and stuff. So like when I'll do content, like a lot of developers will end up watching that because they don't have necessarily a lot of people like playing their games like online. So they're like, oh
Mhm.
man, like this is just a demo, like like don't perceive my work kind of vibe a little bit. But I had an interaction with a creator like years back, probably like 2015 or something.
I thought
They
you were
went
gonna
on to
say
work.
20 years back. I'm like, dang, Janet.
Yeah, I was, but a child on my dial up internet, just uploading content. Man, if I started on YouTube 20 years ago, the background would look a lot
Oof.
better. I'm telling you right now. But they went on to work on Before Your Eyes, and they were like, "Oh, I remember you." I'm like, "I remember you." Like, it was just a really nice moment, and
Mhm.
I do think that you can really find great creators that resonate with you, like through that kind of ground up approach. Yeah.
It is itch.io Creator Day. It's similar to Bandcamp Fridays, where itch.io doesn't take a
Mhm.
cut.
Sweet.
Uh, and talking about sort of also someone has listed limited run games, and I do want to shout them out because it's an awesome thing. But like a lot of these that we have been discussing, kind of taken in macro, um, require some sort of investment in some way, either like monetary or like monetary and like investment in an ecosystem. So like if you're not an Xbox owner, if you don't have access to that ecosystem, like it doesn't matter how good Game Pass is because you don't have access to it. Same thing with like the Playdate is like a $200 machine. Like that's a really hard thing to ask people to do if you are one of those people that are stealing Netflix from other people and you don't necessarily have access to the games. Like a lot of these require either a like being in an ecosystem or money, which is an interesting like sort of conundrum as the indie sphere. I always think of it as being kind of like we're all in this together community sort of thing. But considering how many of the platforms that are kind of indie specific or indie centric are fracturing in a way, it makes me wonder both like is this fostering the indie community or is it fracturing us more or uh are these is it possible for indie fans to have all of them? Is it even something they should aspire to? What do you
I mean,
think, Jenny? I see you looking over there.
Well, I don't know. I think to answer the second question, I feel like aspiring to have everything of something is probably not a good idea just in general. Like I think
What do you
there's
mean?
you can't catch them all. Pokemon lied. No, I feel like each of these serves like a really different type of community and different purpose. So I think as a player, and if and who am I to say? I guess if you are like, I have so much time, so much money, and so much energy, and I want it all, like go for it. I love
Can I
that.
be that person?
Enjoy your life. I do not have the time, money, or energy to participate in all and engage with all of them in like the fullest capacity. So I know for myself, I look at what do each of these offer in terms of community vibes, what kind of games do they like to curate, like what kind of play experience are they focusing on, and just try to focus on that. And so I guess in that sense technically it's fracturing the community because it's allowing people to find those specific niches, but um, at the same time I feel like there is a wider sort of, we're all trying to find indie games and unique ways of play and like find things that are these sort of diamonds in the rough. And so I think that sentiment is one that unifies people who do try to look for these type of game experiences versus maybe people who are a bit more traditional and like, I'm going to just go for PlayStation because I grew up playing PlayStation games and like I want Final Fantasy, like that's a little bit of a different mentality. So I don't know. I think maybe it is fracturing, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Mhm.
And it just allows for more specific focused communities that can serve those communities better.
Mike.
I think it can be incredibly overwhelming to keep track of everything and try to stay on top of everything. Hence, the council being perpetually stressed and anxious. And yeah, it's hard. And you wrote in the notes like, is it viable? No, it's realistically no, it's not viable unless you're like really into it. Like, if this is like your career, if this is your job, sure, maybe a little bit because it's like we feel we have our duty to stay on top of Playdate catalog, to stay on top of like the Apple Arcade updates every month, to stay on top of what's being added to Netflix, to Game Pass, to what Limited Run is putting out, what is happening on itch every day where hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games are dropping. um but no, as a player, like I was, whenever I do get asked something like this, like, find a platform that you vibe with. Like, I think each one of these platforms has a tone and kind of like a style that can cater to specific personalities, I guess. um Find your niche and stick with it,
Yeah.
and it'll definitely reward you for that.
I'm really interested about this also, not just on the player side, but sort of on the industry side of things, which Janet can probably speak to a little bit for coverage, and Mike and Jenny can kind of speak towards like PR. But for me, it's very I think it's very telling. Playdate just had one of its biggest releases ever, was the Lucas Pope's Mars After Midnight. And the way that not only it rolled out, but it is being covered is extremely intriguing for me as on the journalist side of things, because I am not by and large seeing reviews. My review just went up if anybody wants to check it out. But my review is even weird. It is weird within my own weird sort of reviews, in that I couldn't give it a score and I didn't know how to kind of score it, and I go into that a little bit. I saw like bigger outlets talking about the fact that it was releasing, but not actually covering the game. Like, I saw Game Informer kind of put out a thing that's like, this game is out and here's how to get it, which is not a usual thing for Game Informer. That is not typically how they cover games. So that's really interesting. I think the fact that Lucas Pope, for anybody who doesn't know, Papers, Please, Return of the Obra Dinn developer, is such a big name that this game is causing sort of ripples throughout that people feel like they have to cover. But it does kind of speak to how the Playdate specifically works in coverage, because you're not typically going to get like a list of here's all the Playdate games that are coming out on any sort of large channel or anything that's not specifically like Playdate focused. It's a like, as a person who covers games myself, like, I often have to kind of triage games because I'm, kind of a single person working on a website. Um, I don't get a lot of time and I can't always cover everything. So a lot of the times I'm not able to cover things on specific niche within niche platforms, because they're not going to get like the kind of views. Like, I don't typically care that much about views, but it does matter that people come to my website. Um, and that's true like on a much grander scale for bigger outlets. Um, so like, you're not getting those covered, but I'm very interested how that reflects in, like, Janet, I don't know if you want to speak to like the coverage side of things, but I also want to turn it over to Mike and Jenny in a bit to like talk about what that means for your clients and that sort of thing. So, whoever wants to take it, go.
Yeah, with the coverage aspect, yeah, it's one of those things, you know what I mean? Where it's like, and I like the play date. I admittedly, I think I like the play date more in concept than I do in practice. I did score it at the time that it came out. I think I imagine I gave it like a 3 out of 5 on my review scale. But I have to kind of double check that. And my thoughts have kind of remained mostly unchanged. It is a like really cool device, but kind of to your point, I think the Playdate more so than any other console does kind of back itself a bit into a niche because it is so specific, because you do like really need that console because the games usually are not like released, multi-platform, because part of that, but part of that's the cool thing, right? So like I'm not mad at it. I get why the Playdate is how it is, but it also makes it um inherently a lot less mainstream to engage with, where it's like I want to be the person that's covering all the Playdate stuff, and I've thought about like, oh, this would be such a fun lane to do, like a Playdate podcast or a Playdate only thing. But it's like one of those things where like I've yet to dust it off, and like the only thing, and it's not really the Playdate's fault, it is rocking its ankle really nicely. But the
Mhm.
only thing that's going to get me to play the Playdate is myself, and I'm not probably going to do that. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of coverage people fall into that as well,
Right.
where maybe they'll be playing it because I do think it's a big name that people are interested in checking out. But at the same time, I think too, like one of the issues with coverage sometimes, and I try to avoid this where I can, but I think unfortunately for some smaller projects, the conversation regarding coverage of something so niche ends up being boiled down to something very, very utilitarian, which I really hope that we can all try to back away from, of like, well, yeah, but like, do I need the Playdate to play this? Or is it just like fine? And it's like, and I don't mind that question because I think that's a valid question. But at the same time, I do think when you bring this to the table, there's kind of like a what's going on here type of energy that you don't get with the more, I think, mainstream games. There's also like I think less demand too from the audience, where again, we're not necessarily, I don't think anyone at any outlet for the most part is completely bending their coverage solely for the audience. Like the audience might be in mind, but there's plenty of passion projects that happen from the biggest site to the smallest site, of things that again don't do the numbers, but the people that created that content wanted to put it out there.
Mhm.
That being said, though, like it's like, so you're telling me that like I'm not getting pressured by the audience to cover this. Maybe I don't really want to cover it to begin with. Perfect storm to just not, And I think that is kind of what has ended up happening with like a lot of these Playdate titles. I'm happy to see that it doesn't seem like it's, shot the Playdate down. I do want it to keep rocking its lane, but at the same time, it's a lane that I don't think, much kind of like what you see with VR, which at least VR is a little bit
Yeah.
more like part of our ecosystem. A lot of those things also get relegated. People will drop a VR review, be like, this is a 10 out of 10 game. And I'll be like, really? Cool. And I turn back, because we only have so much time. We already rock within whatever lanes we have. And I guess the question ends up becoming, do you have someone on your team who's like, this is my thing, right? You joked of like, oh, Jay, you're the Apple Arcade person, right? Like, do people on these teams have Playdate people?
Yeah.
Odds are statistically, like, probably not. Again, not a bad thing. It's a niche, but that's also why the coverage might not happen. It's like, okay, if we don't have the design, like if you don't want to cover it and the audience isn't asking for us to cover it, why would we end up covering it then?
Right.
Because again,
It's so
content's
much.
not necessarily well, it has PR aspects because like PR exists with media. Media's goal is never like PR related,
Yeah.
outside of like sponsored posts, if that goes through like the financial department or something. But it's like, I'm here to do my review. Like you're here to market your game. You might be like, oh my God, the review's good. Yay. But like, you're not necessarily, I'm not like, man, got to help out the team. Like I'm kind of working in my own like silo where how I affect you is neither here nor there to like my content.
Right. And part of that too, of the like the audience isn't asking for it and you aren't pressuring yourself to do it. Part of that too is just having resources. Like I saw Mike's tweet about Mars after midnight, which by the way,
Very good tweet. Yeah.
hilarious. Loved
So
it.
funny.
And I was like, that is such a good idea for like
It's no Balatro in Vegas, but it's pretty good. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah,
it's,
Never mind.
um
I'm like, do not
but I
shoot me
was
with the
like
gun I handed you.
I wanted to shoot Mike an email or a message saying like, "Hey, we should actually do this. We should like stream Mars after midnight. That'd be great." But then I'm like, first of all, Mike's like on fumes right now because he is working so hard on this showcase that we can't wait to watch. Um, but like the resources just aren't there for like time, effort, like
Headlamp
people's
budget.
interests, yeah, budget, to like do that kind of stream because it's like that time that takes you a lot that takes time away from covering other things that more people might be interested in. Like, it is such an interesting thing that, like, just in my life recently, I was like, "Oh, I don't even wanna suggest coverage to someone who is a friend because it might take resources away that otherwise might go to something else." Um, but yeah, as PR, like, how would you guys talk to, like, clients about making stuff on the play date or whatever? I'm not a PR person. I don't know how that stuff works.
Jenny, you want to go or you want me to start?
You can start. Hold on, my headphones like cutting in and out, so I'm trying to fix it
Great
really
reason for
fast.
me to start. Okay.
Yep, yep, yep.
There's a lot of conversations that happen, and obviously it depends on the game, it depends on the time of year, it depends on the situation, whatever it is. A big thing we always try to do, at least personally, is set proper expectations. So let's say the play date thing, for example. Like we'll look at Mars After Midnight, which is arguably best case scenario. It's a Lucas Pope game. Lucas Pope, a renowned developer in our industry, historically has put out bangers that has garnered a lot of coverage. So we look at that, be like, okay, here is what Mars After Midnight did for announcement. It did for the launch. Here's the people who covered it. These are the people we know are paying attention to the play date. So we'll pitch them games. But it's about setting those expectations of like, listen, and like I just did a quick Google. Engadget, Destructoid, and I think you mentioned Game Informer. Okay, those are our tier 1 targets, but aside from that, a couple other sites dropped reviews, but that's about it. And then you look at the influencer side of things of like, there are Playdate influencers out there. There is, Janet mentioned kind of jokingly the podcast thing. There is a not
Oh no, I was totally serious about that. Like I think
no,
that's
yeah.
so
There
like
there
such a good
is
idea.
there is a pretty I'll use major like a little loosely, but like there is a major Playdate podcast and a Playdate community podcast that like puts out their own like Playdate awards and all that kind of stuff. So there definitely is that niche, but yeah, again, setting the expectations of like, okay, you're putting out a Playdate game, you're not putting out, for lack of a better term, or like just to throw something out there, you're not putting out Cult of the Lamb 2, for example. So setting those expectations, that's a big thing. The other thing is just trying to properly portray the current state of media bandwidth. Like we all understand, like media bandwidth is at an all-time low. Inboxes are flooded on the daily. There is way too much happening every single moment of every single day. There are events, there are new game drops, there is news, there is whatever it may be constantly flooding the inbox, and everybody is fighting for attention. We are going to be another person fighting for attention. And listen, like if it is a good game pitch, if it has a good game hook, if we're hitting the right people at the right moment, we'll have a chance to break out. Like, great. We always promise that we're going to try our best to break through to people. But again, expectations, like we are just another game trying to fight for attention, because that's what it is. It's a big fight. And especially nowadays where like there are more games dropping now than ever. Like every single day, like before we started recording, we looked at the release calendar for like the upcoming in spring. It's filling up real quick. And even like I personally, like I'm already planning summer and potential like June, July, August releases. Like the big thing right now I'm having conversations about, it's like, okay, you could launch on X day, but know that Elden Ring DLC is dropping on the 21st. So like we have to be a little more strategic on when you decide you want to talk about your game, when you want to release the demo, when you want to do this, when you want to do that. So long story short, it is about expectations. Of course, expectations and a PR person's plan and the ideal strategy doesn't always line up with the developer strategy. Like deadlines have to get hit, sales have to be made. The
Yeah.
game has to come out at the end of the day. So yeah, it's a real balancing act, and it does, it takes skill, it takes patience, it takes, X, Y, and Z, but there is a whole lot of luck to it nowadays as well. So
I think I do have a quick question, and then like I want to hear Jenny's
yeah.
thoughts on this as well. Just out of curiosity for me, if you had someone come to you with a game and the option for some reason is on the table to have the game on all of these, would you recommend that?
What do you mean all of these? All the platforms?
All of these platforms.
The game is viable to release simultaneously on every single platform. Yeah, like it doesn't really make a difference because like let's say it's only releasing Playdate, Apple Arcade. I guess Game Pass is a weird one, but like all these niche platforms outside of Steam and the consoles, like sure you could cast a wide net, but I think at the end of the day, it's still the same conversation about only releasing a game on Playdate, where unfortunately not a lot of people pay attention to itch.io. Unfortunately, not like, and I'm talking about like mainstream tier one media, because of course everybody wants a PC Gamer article, everybody wants an IGN shout out, everybody wants a nod from Game Informer. Unfortunately, itch.io doesn't bring in the clicks like it's. I mean, I'm sure running Indie Informer, running 6-1 Indie, the editorial stuff, like we could see the back end numbers. Like unless it is a major indie, we ain't drawing the attention when it comes to like the most niche, unknown, weird drop that's on a random Tuesday, especially compared to, let's say the Rise of Ronin previews.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
yeah.
So yeah, like sure, we could launch on every single platform as long as, of course, it doesn't affect the performance and so on and so forth, to potentially catch these different niches, and like collectively they garner great results. But yeah, it's tough. You really have to be targeted. You really have to know your audience. With the Playdate in particular, I do want to shout out Pop Agenda, because I think Pop Agenda does know their audience very well,
Yes.
and they know their targets very well, and they know how to pitch the Playdate extremely well. So yeah, I mean, even today we should have brought it up earlier, but Playdate is going to be for sale at GDC, which is wonderful. So another opportunity for it to hopefully catch more of the mainstream wave moving forward. But yeah, there's a lot of thought and strategy, and again, luck that goes into the day to day, thinking about PR campaigns and when to talk, when to release, when to not talk, and fighting your way into a Game Informer piece, into a showcase. It's a lot.
100%. Jenny, I see you over there shaking your head.
Yeah, mostly. I mean, Mike, you did a great job just kind of summarizing all of those elements.
Thank you.
In terms of putting out a game and trying to get attention for it on these platforms. One of the things I was also thinking about that's a factor from maybe more of the developer side in the choice of what platforms to go to, especially within these niche ones. Especially like Apple Arcade and Netflix and Game Pass actually notably offer developers like really strong deals to get onto these platforms first. And so I think also that was a major factor earlier in the life cycles of these platforms that seems to be a little bit less so now. But I think just thinking about the ways that devs and these made these decisions, like whether or not to go onto Apple Arcade, whether or not to go onto Game Pass. Playdate's a little bit Playdate's a little bit different because that's like you build for the Playdate. But I think that was early on in the cycle of like, hey, we're releasing a game, maybe we're releasing on PC, maybe we're putting on a more traditional platform. So like Game Pass kind of makes sense. But then we have this thing that's, I remember when Apple Arcade started becoming a thing and we were like, should we port to mobile? Is it going to be worth it? And there was this element of, hey, there's a little bit of incentive that Apple was providing to developers to get games, like quality games on the platform. So that was another element of that, sort of a step before what Mike was talking about in terms of making the choice to even go there. But yeah. Oh,
real quick also, with Game Pass in particular, like a lot of the Game Pass stuff, like their year is usually locked up like way in advance. Like 2024 is usually locked up in like mid 2023, early 2023. So like Jenny was saying, that decision has to be made super far in advance. Like once you have like an idea of what your target is, those conversations with Xbox has to start a year, 2 years in advance.
Yep. Yeah, it's a long process. And so it's like those decisions made so far in advance of, and oftentimes it is interesting because I think I've encountered other developers I've talked to who've made these calls of like, hey, we want the funding, so let's go onto these platforms. And then it turns out like, oh, okay, now we have to build for this platform, which is a whole like mechanical thing. And then now we have to also market to the audience on this platform, which adds in all of the factors that Mike mentioned. And I won't like rehash it completely because he did such a good job of just understanding what the community expectations are, what expectations are you setting from your marketing materials, and then how are you consistently delivering them and like setting and following up through those expectations, not just in like your announcement, but in any sort of preview or demo you do up through launch. So yeah, like Mike said, I think we kind of underplay. There is a science to it, but there is a dash of luck that you cannot discount when doing all of this work in games. So
yeah, that's sort of like the game industry in a nutshell. Like you can work really, really hard, but you still need that dash of luck.
Yep.
Anybody else want to throw something out about indie platforms before we move on?
I think just like
Janet doesn't get to talk.
The timing of that could not have been worse. I'm like, I think you're like, okay, no one. All right,
okay, good.
No, I was just gonna say that so I don't know, Mike just dropped out. I don't know if I should keep going.
We don't know if we're still recording. Hold on. Yeah, it still says we're recording.
I think it's still going, but I was just gonna say just pursue whatever you want to. I think if you can afford it, there's nothing inherently wrong with like letting a subscription kind of ride, and like maybe you're using it, maybe you're not. But if it's something that's stressing you out, whether it's logistically or financially, there's lots of ways to tackle it. I think consider picking maybe like a little themed month for yourself. Like I sort of like putting myself into a box sometimes to try to like engage with the platform more. So maybe it is that you got Apple Arcade for a month and you're gonna like spend a lot of time there and then take it from there or whatever. Or maybe it's like you want the play date, you see it, you're interested in it, you get it, and you like rock with it for a bit. Like that's kind of one thing I wrote in my review where I addressed the like, do you think you're gonna play this or is it just gonna sit in a drawer? Now I know now that I'm here in 2024, I mean, it's not sitting in a drawer. It's on my shelf, displayed prominently, as it should be. But yeah, I haven't really used it. But one thing I wrote in that was, that doesn't mean that I didn't, granted, I got a review copy, so it's like, oh, I didn't pay for it. But like, that doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy my time with it. Like, I have a freaking GBA that I bought and got a modded version of. I spent more time with the Playdate than this. Still fine having both. Like, one I purchased, one I received. But either way, like, you don't always have to necessarily play through the stuff that you have, but just kind of like rock the lane in the way that you want to rock it. Like if that is bothering you, review it and reflect. But yeah, there's lots of options to pursue indies in these different platforms and niches, and they're all really fun and different, and they all have like really strong communities too, which I think is very cool.
100%. And with that, I'm not going to cut anybody else off if they have anything to say, but I don't think they do. We're going to move over to games we've been playing. There are some interesting things on here. I think a lot of us have similar things. So I want to start, and they all like start with an S, by the way.
Yeah.
So let's start with the S trio. I want to start with Snufkin because I love it so much. Janet, how are you liking Snufkin?
It's really nice. I started it on stream so that was the game I liked, the lore of the earlier in the episode. Yeah, I thought it was really sweet, really quaint. Fairly simple, straightforward gameplay, but I think it's a fun world to be part of, and I like its sort of take on Jill had talked about the game last episode, but it's sort of take on the music aspect, kind of activating different parts of the world or being a way that you can interact with animals. Again, having streamed it, a lot of my chat felt like this had Wander Song energy to it.
Yeah.
It was just a nice, quaint little time. A lot of friend-shaped friends in that game.
Yes.
I think it was sweet. Like, I'd like to continue with it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Maybe it'll be my night game instead of Balatro, because Snufkin can't hurt me the way Balatro has. So maybe this is the new... maybe
or
this is the new zone for it. But yeah, it's also, I think you already had mentioned this last week as well, Jill, that it's a fairly short game. I think it's like 5 hours. I'm like, I think I could sneak in that amount of time. So yeah, I like that game a lot. It was really, really nice.
Jenny, I see it on your list as well. You think
Mhm.
so as like I see you smiling, so I already know the answer.
It's just a really pleasant game. It's super relaxing. I love the soundtrack. I love that we're liberating little plots of land from like park ranger police or whatever. And yeah, I love the sort of just being able to like play the flute and walk around and just enjoy, like Janet was saying, like little friend shaped friends. So really pleasant. Yeah, actually, I didn't even think about it, but I've been playing a lot of Balatro, and I think this did calm my nervous system down a
Uh-huh.
little bit comparatively. So that was good.
Yeah, it's
But
the
yeah.
thing that's kept me from like tipping over the edge of anxiety. Like, oh, look at this! I'm
Yeah.
just gonna run around and like once you get the drum like messing stuff
Ooh.
up, that's a lot of fun
Mhm.
as well.
I guess we should
Yeah.
say too, in case this is people's first time hearing about it, it's an adventure game with very light
Mhm.
environmental puzzles. That's the
Yes.
structure of it.
It's essentially like for me when I was a kid, I went to the library a lot. So it's basically like the children's library section, like jumping back to that moment in my
Yeah.
life of like everything's lovely and little cartoonies and you're learning life lessons and
Mhm.
Janet still doesn't know the fate of the friend-shaped friend
One of them, at
Snufkin.
least. It's the classic video game thing of like, go meet somebody. I'm like,
They're
look,
not
I'm like, well, they're not gonna be there. I already know.
there.
If they didn't say what time they'd be there, life lesson also. If you didn't set a time, you don't have that plan. I'm
No.
Yeah,
sorry.
that is very true.
Uh, moving on to the second S, let's go with Summer House. Um, we could not talk about this last week, but Jenny wanted to so bad. So I'm going to
I
let her go ahead
did.
and lead the talk to this.
Yeah, so for folks who haven't encountered this game, Summer House is kind of it's it's more of a toy box in a lot of ways is how I like to describe it to folks, because if you basically are creating scenes and little houses and creations that are inspired, they seem sort of like, I don't know, they feel very Grecian, like very like if I was in the summer in Greece, this is what I imagine it would be like. I've never been to Greece in the summer or ever, but this feels very like, I feel like Mamma Mia is going to be sung, somewhere like in the distance. And all you're doing is just building lovely scenes. I personally, it took me a little time to warm up to this game, to be honest, because there's no missions, there's no goals. You just have like assets, essentially. You get to place them how you want. And I saw the trailer and I saw so much beautiful detail and whimsy, and just like, I was like, I want to build all this stuff. And I hopped in and I was like, none of my stuff looks this good.
Yeah.
It was kind of humbling. But I've taken a bit more time with it, and I feel like slowly, again, kind of like Snufkin, it's allowing my brain to sort of unwind, and I feel like I'm getting better at being creative, which is
Yeah.
kind of an interesting phrase, but it's allowing me just to sort of genuinely play and experiment. And so there's a learning curve. If you're not naturally a creative person, you may feel a little bit like, is this going the way it's supposed to go? But I think it's trying to push people to like just be a little bit more playful in sort of the ways that they work with things. But so I'm enjoying it, even though it's challenging me a little bit in that respect.
Janet, how did this fall on your scale?
Yeah, this is a not for me game, which I want to draw attention to that, because I think a lot of, hopefully not people in our lovely indie council community, but being online talking about games for a lot of times when I'm not into a game, people will say, well, why do you have to say like it's not good? Why can't you just say it's not for you? And usually if I'm critiquing it, it's because it is for me and I just don't think it's quite up to snuff. And then there's games that I'm like, I think the game is fine, it just doesn't click with me, and this is Summer House. Like, Jenny, you nailed it. Like, this is a toy box creativity, create for creation's sake, which is something that I want to flex that muscle a little bit more as a player. I feel like I sort of often recoil from that like concept, and I want to explore it a little bit more. And Summer House felt like, the opportunity to do that. I love your story, Jenny, about you see what they're building and then you look at what you make, because that's absolutely what happened to me, where I think the gifts of this game, shout out to, the PR, the social media managers, because like this game looks awesome, and I'm not saying it's not, but it takes time to like invest in all of that aspect of it. I think the thing that I was hoping to find with this game that I thought might be kind of the happy medium for easing myself into letting go and just being is the fact that de- so there is like an aspect to the game where you can put down specific assets that then unlock more assets. So an
Mhm.
example I'll use is I put down like a sort of the house structure and a roof. And when I did that for the first time, they're like, "You unlock some birds." And I'm like, "Oh, hell yeah. Cool." I see the kind of loop and I like that idea and that is part of the game. But because as Jenny mentioned, that's very much under the hood and you cannot pop that hood, you're kind of just left like you're going to experiment and as you go like things will happen, but I didn't feel like, and I did make a couple structures, but I'm like, they didn't give me anything else." So then I left, which is like that's totally a me thing. I'm like, I need a little like I thought I would get a little bit more, and that's kind of when you look at again the assets that they show in like GIF format. It's like, oh, there's like you know an ice cream stand and there's like a grandma and she's like high-fiving a child, and I'm like, yeah, I want to make that come to life. And then I look at what I make and it's like, you know, it's just like a big door and like two windows. So yeah, it wasn't something that I felt like there was maybe enough to trick myself into letting go. I think I need just like a little bit more structure to kind of get lost in it. But like I think the art is very pretty and I did have some fun like having streamed it, taking stuff from my community to like kind of facilitate that creativity of, oh, build like a hobbit house, build like this thing. And I kind of
Mhm.
like that. I think I also maybe wish there were maybe more assets at the jump, but I do think if they I don't know. It's just kind of it didn't work for me, but that is the setup. It is like a place to play, and I do like that it has a discovery aspect. I was just bad at discovering, so I'm like, look, I can't plop the grandma down in mine, so I'm not as
Yeah.
interested as I thought I'd be.
I wonder if this is one of those games that just really doesn't translate well for streaming. I think for me, what was sort of my pathway into this game is first the fact that the weather is changing in lovely California, Bay Area. It is becoming time for me to open my doors and windows. The breeze is coming in, the sun is on my face, and I do just kind of want to sit down and like revel in that. But like my job is to be at the computer all day. So like the fact that this is a great excuse to be at my computer but also revel in the sunshine and the beauty, cuz this game is beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. You have like 4 or 5 different landscapes to kind of choose from when you start to build your house. And of course, I'm building in like the rivery meadow or like the lakeside Mediterranean, areas, but there are also like cityscape, kind of outskirts of cityscape, and also desert, kind of desertscape, which can both be really cool too. But like I was just sort of putting things together and I started out where everybody was. Like it is sort of a like you feel like you've been thrown out into a void without a net. Like I don't really know. I guess I'll put a wall here and I'll put a little roof on it. And I'm like, I did it. What else am I supposed to do? But then like as I continued to sort of play through and I'm like, oh, I can put things together to make bigger houses. And then I started like building like, okay, I'm gonna make a convenience store because if my person is living next door, they're gonna wanna be able to buy,
Mm.
like, ramen or
So
something,
you're like
so,
making a
like
community. See, I was just like
Mhm.
yeah.
slabbing some cement together.
It took me a while to get there, but then I'm like, "Okay, so what is the convenience store needs?" It needs a sign, it needs to have like, maybe it's got, like, a post sign outside so that people who are hiking nearby are gonna stop in and get their power bars or something, and they can see, like, hiking trails or whatever. Now I've got obviously, you're gonna get, like, the, vending machines, and then you'll want a phone because the phone like, there aren't a lot of phones out here as you're hiking, and that's gonna be, like, you wanna call people, so what do you need for a phone? You're gonna need, electrical wires, so I'm building electrical wires, and as I'm doing that, then all of a sudden, electrical wire next to phone, now there's a person there who's chatting away. I'm like, "Okay, what
Mm.
else do I need?" I need, if people wanna sit outside and eat their rice balls or whatever you bought at the convenience store. Like I'm putting all these things together, and those are the things that sort of like as you sort of make those connections to like what would really be here, those are the times when, like Janet said, you are starting to unlock new assets. I think one of my favorites was like I was building a Mediterranean house, uh, and I put a balcony on there, and I can't remember exactly what triggered it, but like it triggered to have a balcony with a person playing like the lute.
Mm.
So now I have like music that's ongoing in my background at all times. And like it's a really cool, and I found at one point like the stairs and something gives you a dog. So I'm like, of course I'm putting the dog in every single situation I can possibly put it in. Um, and that is really what kind of triggers you onward. It is a very self-led experience. You do have to have your own goals and try to meet those goals. Like, it is well, I was thinking, like, this might be one of those games like Valheim or Enshrouded where, like, you can build things, and you're really excited to see what other people build because 'cause they're smart, but I may not be as much. But it is one of those games that is just unwinding and just letting you experience happiness and joy in a very lighthearted situation that's not a lot of stress. So, yeah, I really liked it. Very opposite to this, I think the last S that I have on my list, but I don't know if anybody else has it, Sulfur, is I played a lot more of it. I know I talked a little bit of it last week, but I I have such a dichotomy of feelings as regards Sulfur because I love the way it plays, I love the way it looks, I love its attitude, I love its atmosphere. Like there are so many things. The loop is really hard to stop playing. But it is a very, very old school like kind of experience where it is a rogue like, not a light. You do not get a lot of progression, even if you've made it like I made it to level 7 and there are only like 8 levels and died. And now I'm all the way back to just having like one basic pistol and no armor. Now I have to get all the way back. And it took me so much. It took so much of my heart and soul to get to level 7, you know? And there's no shortcuts. You can't get back to level 7 without it. There's no like I think you can leave stuff in a box, but for the most part, if you're doing well in a run, why would you leave to go back to leave stuff in that box so that you can start out at level 1 again, sort of thing? Um, so I really kind of hope, but maybe not. Maybe this is what they're going for. Like I sort of hope as a player selfishly that they decide to bend a little bit on that to make it a little more like progression in between things. Um, because yeah, I can't see myself finishing this game, which is a hard thing to say when you really like the game. Mike, did you play a little bit more of this?
I haven't had time to play one video game in like a month.
uh,
No, all I played was that, like, I think 15 minutes of that demo. I still love the gunplay. I still love the vibe. I love the narrative setup. I love the characters. But yeah, I definitely reflect your fears on roguelike versus light. I
mhm.
am not a roguelike person. You know, I have very little patience when it comes to not feeling progression. So that does give me a bit of pause. But we'll see. It might be one of those things that the vibe and the gunplay really carries it for me, because that has happened for me before,
Yep.
where if the gameplay is strong enough, I'll get over the like stuff.
Uh, I know Janet, you had this on your list, but I don't know if you actually got to jump into it. Potions: A Curious Tale. I think Jenny, you are also familiar with this one.
Yeah, I played it.
Go for it, Janet.
Sick.
Yeah, Potions: A Curious Tale is a sort of another like witchy adventure game, but also a potion crafting game. So you're essentially like going on an adventure, collecting ingredients, creating potions. Those potions can allow you to take on different quests and challenges. You know, one simple one that you start out with is like learning how to make an explosive potion, and then you use it to like break down these rocks and then like travel to like another area. Ultimately, this is the one that I feel like wasn't, you know, it's not going to get the recommendation from me. I think there's some really cool ideas in here. This is also, I believe, this developer's, I think, first game, question mark. It's kind of the vibe I got from it, in terms of like how they've been talking about it. that they've been working on for like quite a number of years and finally were able to put out. But yeah, it definitely has, for starters, aesthetically and functionally, like how it moves, it definitely has like that Flash game feeling. It is a little bit rougher, the animations aren't smooth, things like that. But I sort of jumped into this knowing that because I wanted to see what those other ideas were. And I think, again, there are some solid ones there. I think the general potion crafting is fun. I think the writing is really funny. I think there's like a lot of humor in the dialogue, which I want to, shout out the creator for really conjuring together. But ultimately, the top two reasons that like this doesn't really get my recommendation is, one, I think there's other games that scratch this itch a lot better. The idea of adventuring and collecting. I feel like this just doesn't quite do it for me. And then number two is I do think aspects of the game are a bit incongruous. Like they don't really match up together well. Even just the opening of it, I thought was really like, whoa, what's going on? And it's like you start on this ship and then you're like fighting a kraken, and I was like really taken aback by. I'm like, oh, I didn't think I'd do this in this game, and that's not to say that you're not allowed to surprise your player, but I feel like the surprise came immediately and I was like, whoa, wait,
Mhm.
what's the game? And then the game kind of stumbled into like what I expected it to be. So I think even just something like that felt like really jarring for me. But I think like the general concepts, it's like, okay, I can see what's going on here. But unfortunately for me, I don't feel like the all of it came together in like the current package. But it's one where I'm like, all right, maybe Stumbling Cat, the developer, might keep an eye out. Maybe I think down the line I could see them popping off with something that I do end up connecting with. But yeah, that's kind of where I landed on it. But Jenny, I don't know if you had time to check this one out as well.
No, I've been following it for quite some time, but I haven't played it yet. So I'll probably hop into it. I have a bunch of games downloaded for my plane rides. So I'll probably be playing
Oh,
it next
yeah.
week.
I want to shout out, or I want to talk a little bit about Mars After Midnight. And it's, uh, I think I've said this several times throughout the show, but review is up right now. It is a really confounding game for me to talk about as a critic. Um, it is a Lucas Pope, like known for kind of interesting, creative, narrative games. Um, this is a Lucas Pope light game. Like it is like you put Lucas Pope in a jar and add some water to it, you know. So like you get all the like, yeah, this kind of tastes like Lucas Pope. um, but it is by and far the greatest game I have played on the Playdate. It plays with all those mechanics so well. It is thoughtful about all those. It has really like the loop is hard to put down. You are essentially, if you don't know about this game, playing as sort of like a bouncer slash refreshment provider slash host of a community center. And you are trying, your goal is to help all the Martians that you possibly can. And to that end, you plan for what the topic of that night is going to be. You make sure that the people who are invited are actually like the people who come in, uh, provide refreshments that will actually be good for those people. And you have to kind of balance all of that with how much money you are bringing in. And how much money you're bringing in depends on how satisfied everybody is with like what you've put out and what you're offering and if it was helpful. So like if you one of my favorite, like they're all very silly things. One of my favorite seminars was like gnats with knives. So like every time I'd open the
Sounds
door, I'd
horrifying.
see a little like a little buzzy guy, and I had to use like a telescope to actually zoom in on the gnat to see if it was wielding a knife or not, to like know that it was okay to let them in. But if I'd let one n- unarmed gnat in there, I would get less money because they wouldn't be helped by the seminar. So like it sort of matters that you do this, and then yeah, it's just like the humor is so good. That is such a stupid idea, but it's so fantastic. And it is very creative in the way that it has you interact with people. So, like, that zooming lens is really cool. There are situations where, like, you have to discover whether or not the people have a certain injury, in which case you buy a like X-ray machine so you can see like, yep, they're definitely injured, so they can come in. Because like, you know, Martians would just be coming up. They hear that you've got free food and they're knocking on your door, like, let me in. So I have to be like
Same.
bouncing people out. Yeah. Um, Another one of my like absolute favorites include things that like physically harm the people who are coming to your door. So like there's one where it's like an Acme sort of like glove punch automatic thing, and it's like for a boxing get together or something. So like they have to prove they have some boxing ability. And if they don't, they just get knocked out. Like I'm like, okay, I guess you weren't coming in. You weren't really like, you're not getting any of this pie. Like, um, so it is, as far as the playdate goes, it is one of the most fun games. It is so well communicated. This is obviously a game from a developer who knows how to make games, who knows how to engage people. Oh, Mike has actually
I just
like,
discovered a new feature.
oh my gosh. For anybody who
Fancy.
can't see, Mike's screen is actually jumping up and down and
I didn't mean
says
to
he
interrupt
wants
you. I'm so sorry.
So you lied when it said Mike has something to say. That was
No,
like,
I,
He has
I had
nothing
a, I
to
had a
say.
thing.
Say
I
a
had a
thing.
thing.
Say your thing.
Is this the Playdate's killer app?
Yes. But also, I don't think it's a system seller.
Fair.
Like, if you have Playdate, this game is something you should get. Like, there is no reason to have a Playdate and not get this game. If you're a person on the fence about getting a Playdate and you needed that one thing to play, this might be the reason for you to get a Playdate. If you're someone who's like, I don't really know if Playdate is for me, this is not going to convince you to get it, and you will not get it and be like, I'm so satisfied I got the Playdate. You know, like,
you
it is
covered
a
every sector of humanity. Congratulations.
like that's why it's so hard for me, like, when I am critiquing a game or doing a review and giving a number to that game, my sort of initial things I'm trying to look at is like, what was the purpose of this game and did they achieve that purpose? And I think 100% goal was met. This game was supposed to be a sort of paper please light game. And that's 100% what this is. If you're going into it looking for anything deeper, if you're looking for some kind of underlying narrative, like, there are tiny, tiny hints of things. And like, you know, if you like robots that dream of teddy bears, like, very cute. I love it. But like, it doesn't, like, I was sort of hoping it would turn into something else is happening, what's going on sort of game, but it is very much a showcase for, you can open the door with the lever, you can do these silly things, you play like a mini game that's basically the Tower of Hanoi, and like try to clean up, and like that's literally what this game is, even though it's really fun to play. um that brings me to a hard thing of like, the game does what it intended to do, but is this a game that is substantial in a way that deserves of a 9, a 10, an 8, or whatever? Like, that is such a hard dichotomy, and like they clash in that way. So it's like, I didn't know how to approach actually rating this, so I have a review up right now with no number attached. But yeah, that's sort of where I am on this. This is a great Playdate game. Is it a great game? I think it would be hard for me to recommend.
I'm excited to jump in.
Yeah.
I bought it last night. I
Check
booted
out.
up the menu for a photo.
You'll
Then I
see
went to sleep.
next week Mike is gonna, or we won't be doing next week because that's GDC, but the week after that, like, Mike's gonna be in like, Jill was totally wrong, Mars After Midnight is the killer thing, you need to get a
Game of the
Playdate
year
right now.
It is interesting, like, despite the conversation earlier, like, yes, it didn't get too much attention so far as like media shout outs, reviews, whatever, but it did get more than most Playdate games. And aside from maybe Root Bear, which went pretty viral over TikTok, maybe like a couple months back at this point, a few months back, this is the first game that I've seen make some noise on socials.
Yeah.
With in terms of the Playdate catalog, so it's exciting. And I think it's a good it's a good sign of life for the Playdate. I mean, everything the Playdate's doing is a great sign of life. Like I wouldn't think like how many years now down the line we'd still be talking about Playdate and new games on the Playdate.
Yeah.
So I'm just really happy there's still some really cool, weird, experimental digital toys to play with on the little powerful square that could.
Jill, do you think this is gonna like have a long-standing impact on how you do reviews in terms of numbers? Is this the first game that you didn't give a score to?
No, I started out that way, and I typically don't like scoring games because it is so derivative of something that someone has
Samey.
worked so much time and effort in. I think a lot of the reason why I do, um, I try kind of to like minimize it as much as possible that there is a scoring mechanism in my reviews.
Okay, interesting.
But it is a requirement for Metacritic. You have to have a score attached.
Yeah.
So, and like I've done that in the past, and it's something that I know how to do, and I know how to like play through a game, and like this feels like a general this game.
You could kind of fake it on OpenCritic. Like 6.1 doesn't do numbered scores, but you kind of be like, yeah, I guess I recommend the game when you input it into OpenCritic.
Yeah. So yeah, just running quickly through the rest of the games everybody wants to shout out. Jenny, you're continuing Gree, it looks like. Gris.
Yep. Yeah. Greece. Enjoying it, playing it slowly, just with the rest of the community, and just talking about it. And also, I played and finished because it was only an hour, which is awesome. Please
We
touch
love it.
the artwork too.
Listening? I'm like, only an
Which
hour. All right.
Yes, it's so funny and silly. What was I think Procession to Calvary. Do y'all remember
yeah,
that where
yeah.
it was like such silly, goofy artwork and like just like the almost mixed media style. This has a similar style where basically you're encouraged and brought into the paintings. I think James Ensor is this famous painter. You are going into his paintings and you're like a hand and you're guiding the skeleton and you're chasing another skeleton. It's a little bit unhinged, but just a really thoroughly enjoyable game, and it's free.
Yeah.
So
the kind of game we like
really
around here.
Yeah.
Unhinged and free.
No excuse not to play. And if you really like it, it is a sequel to a game called Please Touch the Artwork that was also wonderful. And that one, I don't remember how much it is, but I don't think it was very much. And yeah, it's a sub 10. It's $9.99 on Steam right now, and I'm sure it goes on sale. So like, wishlist it if you like the first one or the second one. Played it for free. Go back and play the first one.
Yeah.
Really fun.
I think as far as excuses not to play, I have this on my like I need to play this list, but like I think a lot of people may or may not know that I worked in museums for 10 years, and that phrase
Oh.
really triggers me.
Yeah.
So,
what did you do at the museum?
Various things. Like a lot of the times just wandering around telling people like please don't touch this was a part of it, or like taking
so were you
tickets and selling
security?
tickets.
Were you like
I was not security, no.
roughing people up?
No. I was one of those people who like politely like, hey, if you could think about like not ruining 500-year-old pieces of architecture, I'd really appreciate that.
It's like menaces like me as a child.
But I did like a lot of like stuff like taking tickets behind the scenes. Like I told you guys a little bit about like my call experiences.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
So you kind of floated around and did.
I
like,
did a lot of
bunch
things.
stuff.
I went through membership. I went through like marketing is not the word you use. Development is actually the word you use in a museum when you're talking about getting money from rich people. If you're interested to know.
Same from my nonprofit film organization days. Development.
Yep.
Yeah.
Development.
I feel like we've all lived a lot of lives, which is kind of interesting.
We're very wise.
Yeah. Yes.
For better or worse.
I also had a brief museum era. It wasn't like super professional though. I was like a intern.
You ran around touching artwork, and I had to yell at you.
Well, we actually did have a section where you were allowed to touch the artwork at the Art Studio
Jen is
Chicago
Banksy.
for.
Oh my gosh,
that's me.
You heard it here first, everybody.
Who would have thought? You know, for people that were interested, or maybe hard of seeing, just to be able to have a section to interact. But that is
Speaking
clearly
of
labeled.
museums, homework for you guys. Please go check out the MoMA thing because I'm very curious to see what that's like and hear about it.
I'm set to go do that. So
Awesome.
I will tell you about it. I do love SF MoMA.
What is the MoMA thing?
It's Day of the Devs.
Oh, okay.
The mix.
Is it
Okay.
the mix?
It's the mix. Yeah.
It's one of them. One of those is happening, and I'm going to it. And I love SF MoMA in general. Like, it is literally, you can look across the street and see it from the San Francisco Convention Center. I like, people are going to steal this now because I keep saying it on public things, but like, I almost always use it as like a meeting space because it is so lovely, and I don't get to go to it a lot. So like, GDC is a great time for that. So yeah, everybody go check out museums. Who cares about all these indie games? Go play indie games in museums. Go take your play dates and check that out.
Yeah. Zalabir mentions that. Wow, what's the game he just launched? El Paso Elsewhere will be will be a part of the MoMA experience with the mix.
That's exciting.
So excited to see what it's about.
So with that, unveiling some of our secret lives, telling people to cause mayhem in museums, that is the end of this week's council. Thank you to everybody for joining us. Thank you to everybody on the council for coming and being together and a part of everything, even though we had some technical difficulties. Thank you to everybody who is viewing and watching. We really love and appreciate that you're here just hanging out with us talking about indie games. You can follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google until April, which is coming up real close. Indie Council has its own socials where now we post controversial polls.
Yeah.
Jenna, I need you to put up a poll asking people if I should get a nose piercing.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. This is just every week we'll have a poll. But yeah, we're the Indie Council pretty much everywhere except for Twitter, where we're Indie Council _. Shout out to whoever took the Indie Council. It is his hand. We're back.
And with that, this session is closed. Go play some indies.